What's up, everybody? So, I went ahead and went to the gaming store by where I work recently, and I purchased some things, and amongst them was the Blood Angels Codex for 8th edition. I like collecting codices, and I wanted to get this one for a bit now. So, I finally went ahead and got it, and I gave it a bit of a read. I didn't read it cover to cover, word for word, but I gave it a decent read. So, I want to give my impressions on it thus far because I am digging it, and I basically got the setup of how it is. So I want to give my impressions on the Blood Angels because they have plenty of fans behind them, and the Codex has been out for a bit now. So it's one of those things where, yeah, you probably have checked it out already if you're a fan of them. But if not, here's some thoughts on from me, as well as all the thoughts out there on the web already. So I'm liking this Codex. I think they did a good job with the Blood Angels Codex. They've always been a cool force that I've always liked. But before I go into some specific things I really enjoyed about the book, I want to go over just a couple of things that really I'm not digging too much. And it's nothing major. I mean, firstly, his Lamenters are in there, which is great to see them. They're showing it in the picture of the successors. There's a lineup of successors showing the color scheme and their name, a little blurb about them. And the Lamenters are shown there too, and they're all showing Primaris power armor. So Lamenters have Primaris. Nothing of shock and awe to really speak of, but it's just one of those things where I find it interesting given the Lamenter's history. And the Lamenters have went through a lot of fluff changing over their lifespan. Originally, they were viewed as being immune to the flaw. They were from the curse. Oh, they are from the curse founding. So the concept was that they were made to be immune to the genetic flaw of the Blood Angels, perhaps. And in doing so, that's why they're so cursed, if you will. Another way of having really bad luck and grief and misfortune. Turning victory to ash in their hands, no matter the case. They can have victory, but something always really terrible happens with it. So they're really unlucky in that regard. They have the worst luck and the worst streak, if you will, of all the Space Marines for that fact. And it's thought perhaps that their cure of the flaw has somehow given us some other curse. So that's how that fluff has been for a bit. Then it was changed to say, hey, by the way, they have this really unluckiness, and they're still flawed. They still have the genetic curse of the Blood Angels gene seed. They have Death Company. It's like, oh man, okay, whatever. And then from that, they have the Penance Crusade, and now they have Primaris again. It's interesting, and I get why. It makes it so if you're really interested in Primaris and interested in Lamenters, you don't have to choose one over the other. So I get it. I think it would have been a bit more interesting if maybe Lamenters fluff specifically stated that they have no Primaris, or really few, or something along the lines where it just makes it sound a bit different. I still really like the Lamenters. I don't know, something about them. I just really enjoyed that chapter. So it is cool to see them get some mentioning and showcasing in the Codex again. Anyways, that's one little nitpick of mine. The other one is Taicho. Captain Taicho, third company captain of the Blood Angels, who's been dead since the Third War of Armageddon. He was afflicted by the Black Rage, inducted into the Death Company, and died in battle, basically, on the in the Third War of Armageddon. Cool fluff. I like him. He's a kind of a tragic hero because of that fact. He's cool. He's a cool special character, but he's been dead. Sergeant Naaman of the Dark Angel Scout Company was a special character scout sergeant. He died on Vicina 4. In the 4th Ed Codex, which was basically like a preemptive 5th Ed Codex for the Dark Angels, he had no rules. The previous edition Codex had rules for him. And unfortunately, he's been talked about less and less over the Codex editions. But my point is, they went from having rules for Sergeant Naaman to having no rules for Sergeant Naaman. And whatever their reasons behind it ultimately are, it fits the fluff. So it's a nice flow. It shows progression. Xavier, Chaplain Xavier of the Salamanders, also eventually died in battle in his fluff, and his rules went away. We have Taicho here, who's sticking around. He's been dead since the Third War of Armageddon, and for several editions now, he's been dead in the Codex. Written about as being dead. And every time they do the Blood Angels Codex, I always wonder, will they sub him out? Will they get rid of him, bring somebody else in? And every time they don't, I'm always a little disappointed. Nothing against the guy, right, or his entry or anything like that. In fact, I'm really glad that his Dead Man's Hand has special rules again. But I just, for me, and it's just my nitpicking and it's just my weirdness and quirkiness, I guess, I would love it a lot more if he was removed as a special character. Keep him in the fluff. Just remove him as a special character. If they want to have a regular Captain special character, then by all means, make up somebody new. Either do it for a whole other company or have their company, the company captain of their company, equipped like Taicho. Make it, have it feel like a little bit of a cop out in all honesty by doing that. But if they did it with the fluff and basically did something along the lines of, the new third company captain was Taicho, they were really close or whatever, and close battle brothers, and Taicho was his mentor, and having him fall to the Black Rage and become Death Company was horrible to bear. And upon his death, he reclaimed his war gear, relics, if you will, and incorporates them in his battle armor and the way he fights. So he would have the Dead Man's Hand, he would have the Blood Song, he would have the mask even, and that way they could even keep the model being sold. But just something to represent the forward nature, especially because one of the things that's really prevalent in this codex, and you can really get a feel of right away, is that time has passed in the 40k timeline, that we move forward in the 40k timeline. Something that 8th edition, I'm really happy about for that edition, is that it finally is taking the steps forward into new time of the new, or into having the timeline progress is the best way I can put it. And this codex makes mention that itself, that time has passed, that they're rebuilding the chapter, that heroes have fallen but new ones have taken their place. And yet we still have Taicho. So it's just a little bit of just a little bit of a disappointment to still see him there. Not because I don't like him, but just because he shouldn't be there. He's been dead. And if I were to ever collect Blood Angels and use him in the Force, which I'm not, and I wouldn't use him anyway because he doesn't have a jump pack, I would kit bash my own model together with similar war gear and give him a different name and call him the successor to Taicho or whatever, and go about my business that way. Outside of that, I'm fine with what I've seen with the the data sheets, the entries, and the codex thus far. I haven't nitpicked it down to the littlest detail, but I've liked what I've seen. The relics are pretty cool, and all in all, it's pretty solid. It's definitely Blood Angels. If you know Blood Angels, you'll know this codex. If you're interested in Blood Angels, you're not gonna be disappointed, unless you don't like their fluff once you read it. But it's not watered down to the point of being, boring or worthless. So you still feel very unique. They feel angelic. The Blood Angels have always been meant to feel angelic. They're kind of Greco-Roman-esque in some of their features, but they're meant to feel angelic. They're stuff referred to as hosts, right? And jump packs and wings of fire, and their Primarch was Sanguinius, an archangel-looking dude for realsies. Like they're meant to be the kind of the angelic host of Space Marines, and they definitely fit the bill. With that said, I do like how timeline has definitely progressed forward, and we're past the devastation of Baal, and they're rebuilding now. That's cool. And I like the way the Primaris were handled. The Primaris were handled simply enough. Firstly, they were welcomed with open arms by the Blood Angels and their successors. They saw them with the noble features of Sanguinus, with their gene seed, and they treated them like long-lost battle brothers. I also like the way the Dark Angels did it, when they made them prove their worth, but both are good and both are fitting for each chapter. What the Dark Angels did is very fitting. What the Blood Angels do is very fitting as well. As far as the whole genetic flaw thing, the Blood Angels gene seed, the Blood Angels, view the Primaris as hope, which I also find interesting. Whatever the process does, however the process works, it seems to do something to help tone down the flaw in their gene seed, and they seem to have much greater and much easier control of it, which is cool. And there's implications for that in future plot potential and all that. But it's a very simple and easy way to address the flaw, and why there's no Death Company Primaris in the Codex. Very simple way to do it, so they did a good job that way. I also like, in a little blurb about them, how it mentions that not only did they receive the Primaris reinforcements, but they also received the technology and the information on making more Primaris to reinforce their numbers should they need to. And it's something I figured that the chapters would get, but just to have it written about here is nice, and is a nice enough precedent fluff-wise, even though it's only in the Blood Angels Codex thus far. I don't own the regular one, so it might be said there too. But, it makes sense. The implications of that make sense to be far-reaching for all the chapters because, it's not just here's reinforcements. They need a way to keep it up. So here's how you do it. So I like that. It's just nice to finally read that. I like that they have a relic that's a force weapon relic for your librarians. It's just nice to see some psyker support that way and all of that. Still want to see a special character Jack Marine, but hey, we're getting one step at a time. So all in all, I do like the Blood Angels Codex. It feels good. It doesn't feel exactly the same with the ones that came before it. Although when you look at the units and the rules and the capabilities they have and what you can do with them, they don't feel removed at all or alien. It just is a little bit different, handled a bit differently because 8th edition is different enough where it has to be handled differently. Outside of that, really not much else I can say. I really like how Dante's fluff was handled because, again, it shows progression. In 7th edition, Dante was growing weary of his charge. Not that he was looking to end it or to stop. It's just that Dante was growing weary from all his many centuries of leadership and all that. And it makes mention of that. And then once the Great Rift happened and the reinforcements came, the Primaris and all that, and Guilliman charged Dante with tasks, it renewed him. It's like he was reborn again, and he has more vigor and stands taller and more proud and everything. So it's just cool to see Dante revitalized in this codex. It's nice because Dante's a really cool character. So it's just always good to see that happen. And again, it shows progression because that was different in the previous edition, and here it is, not radically altered, just progress further. So always cool. Anyways, I'm liking it. It's cool. They've always had a fun kind of feel with their codex and with their characters and their unique things, and I really like them. I might try to make use of this codex at some point in the future. I have those Lamentor shoulder pads. I don't know how many Lamentors I'm going to end up making, but I do want to do another one. Reading this codex and seeing it through makes me want to paint up another Lamentor, that's for sure. Anyways, that's my just some initial impressions, some takeaways from the Blood Angels Codex. And, with having multiple codices now in 8th edition, I think they're doing a good job with them. It's not like they're radically different from the Codex editions prior, because they're not, but they feel good. Again, I guess they feel in theme with the underwriting theme of 8th edition, which is progression forward. And I like that. It's different from the stagnation of the past. So yeah, anyways, that's it. Thanks for sticking through it. I know I've talked too long, but it's what I do. Any questions, comments, or requests, leave them in the comment section. And until next time, take it easy.